Hail, mighty listeners. Welcome to episode 57. In a minute, you'll wonder why we didn't know that by the time we got to the hobby desk, but there you go. Trick of the recording. So, tonight we go onto the hobby desk. We've got lots to talk about on the hobby desk. We've both been quite prolific, got quite a bit done. Then we go into the Galaxy of War. And we talk about 9th edition. Are we happy? Are we sad? Do we know yet? Are we just going to get madly excited as soon as we get miniatures in our hands? Probably. Into the Mortal Realms, and we talk about glorious success on the battlefield. But it's not mine. As well as having a look at what's coming out for the Mortal Realms, or what's been out recently. Into the community, where we talk about you guys and the awesome stuff you've been doing. And then into the wilds, where Ben's got a list.
I do.
Sometimes we don't even know what to talk about, but this time we have a list. Guys, I haven't actually said good evening to Ben, but that's because we're recording this at the end so that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because so many times we've recorded the intro at the start and then done nothing that we've said.
Nothing. Ben, good evening to you.
Good evening, buddy.
Guys, grab some refreshments. Here is episode 57.
Hi guys, and welcome to episode 50. Oh, neither of us know.
I can't remember.
Neither of us.
Anyway, you're not welcoming people. We'd have done the intro by now.
I know, but I always re-intro because just in case you missed like something.
Actually, people can't understand me because I'm too loony.
Yeah, well, apologies for the month extra, but I was on holiday. And life gets in the way, etc., etc. But back to our normal schedule.
You've been crafting yourself into an Adonis. That's why, haven't you?
I don't know what that word means, Dan.
like Atlas.
Oh,
like a sculpted man of iron.
If iron is squishy, then more like a pudding. Then yeah, perhaps
a pudding. Episode 57.
57. Brilliant. Welcome to episode 57. And it's our hobby desk. And we got a fair bit to talk about, really, between us. Although mine is the same project. It's just taking forever. Do you want to go first so I don't bore people with the...
What have I done? Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. I, having flushed from my exciting quest to paint all of my corn.
I don't think you quite finished that when we last spoke.
I thought I had. But I have now.
You have now, yeah.
So, brief recap then. Last time on the 2P's, Dan has finished painting all his corn. So I finished painting a couple of Helldrakes and Terminators and other stuff en masse. Loads and loads of bits and pieces.
You'd be able to see photographs on our Instagram, but unfortunately Dan doesn't know how to work a camera.
I do. I really struggle taking photos. Like I'm all right with, like I was been doing the Warcry terrain, which I'll come on to in a minute, because I've just been doing like little work in progress shots. I've been sharing quite a few.
Yeah.
But I just seem to struggle with the when it's done. It's a shame, really. I can't just, what I need to do next to me is just set up a light box that's just permanently there.
Yeah, I really want to do that because I can't be bothered to get mine in and out.
Yeah.
Basically. That's not a euphemism, you filthy git.
I know. And I'm resisting the urge to insinuate that it is one. But you did it anyway. So
preemptive strike.
Moving on from the corn, I have painted the Warcry starter set terrain. And I had such a good time doing it, man. I absolutely love doing it. I've just tried to add a few little extra touches to bring it up. One thing that's been brilliant though is having the contrast paints.
Yeah.
So I zenithed it with rattle cans, so Chaos Black, Mechanica Standard Grey, and Grey Seer. And then I went back with Basilicanum Grey through the airbrush, and I was able to like spray that over, but then focus it in certain areas as well, in the darker areas. Then I went through, and this was cool, because I've obviously rearranged all my paints, I was able to look for the sorts of colours I wanted. So I ended up with Korax White.
Share with the podcast the rearranging of your paints down. So this has been an ongoing thing.
Yeah, because we haven't spoken about this, have we?
No, we haven't, have we?
So there has been a battle of the ages, not unlike Sauron versus the Free Peoples levels of battle between Ben and I as to the best way to arrange your paint. So I was insistent that alphabetical order was the way to go.
Only way.
Was the only way. Every other way makes no sense. Ben was insistent that you should organise by colour. And then within that, I believe, into a sort of by shades of that colour.
Yep.
Now, I have capitulated. I have capitulated. Well, what happened was I have always painted by guides. And because I paint by guides, I'm looking for a paint colour, not like the name, of a colour, not the colour. So it makes sense to go alphabetical. However, now I have decided I want to branch out a little bit, and actually it's really, really good having them like this, because you can pick up a bunch of colours and sort of hone in on the ones you want and the ones that fit with what you're trying to achieve. So yes, Ben was correct in this case.
Yeah. Episode 57.
And I think that's enough
Finally
of episode
happened.
57 now. See you next time. So, I did. Oh my goodness! I know what I haven't spoken about. Anyone that wants to dry brush something, go to Amazon, put in that you want some makeup brushes, right? $7.99, mate.
I know,
for a whole pack of them of all sizes.
It's not like I haven't told you this as well.
I know that, but
in fact,
people are waiting for that kind of recognition that it's a good idea from me, aren't they? So
yeah, that's right.
Put it out there. So oh my goodness, it's just so good.
So, yeah, it's
so good. Using the dry brushes from that, we Korax White over it, and then going in with something else. Oh, do you know, actually, I think I did the dry brush first, then did the Basilicanum Grey. And then I went in with Athonian Camo Shade, which is another thing that somebody has apparently told me is a good colour over and over again, and washed it into all the recesses, which took a little while, but was very much worth it. And then
you just need those extra colours on stone. If you go for just grey, I don't think it ever works. Whereas if you add something else in, it just makes a difference.
Yeah. And then like the black wood is just Black Templar over that original base coat, and then wild wood for the wood bits, really good. And I highlighted both of those with a very light dry brush of Pallid Witch Flesh.
Oh right, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Which again,
what before you washed them or afterwards?
Afterwards.
Yeah,
really
okay.
lightly.
I really like that.
Because that and again, that was where having all the colours. Because what I wanted was a more natural tone, a less than like bleach bone. Because not bleach bone, screaming skull or something, which is quite hard, I suppose.
I like Pallid Wishfest a lot.
Yeah.
There's plenty of options. So like off whites, I think a must-have in a painting collection.
Yeah, I think
whether it's like the off whites from Vallejo, they do a number of different off whites, or the off whites from like Pallid Witchflesh. From
I think my standout thing I'm really chuffed with is the head.
Yeah.
So I will get some pictures of the head. I did put some up actually, but I'll get a picture of the finished head.
By the head, he means the bronze statue head.
Yeah,
that's in the tray.
I've actually taken a picture of it now.
I know, I can hear.
So I can put that up. But basically, the reason I'm so happy with this is, again, I was just trying some stuff out. So I got the new Rune Lord brass base colour and painted it on. And it's really good. It's just a country mile away from it. So that was pretty much one coat. Maybe two. Let's say two, just to be sure. But it was pretty much one coat. Once I'd done that, let it dry. I put some Athonian camo shade on, and I'm not sure whether that added anything, but I wanted to see what it would do. So, I suppose it dulled it a little bit. And then I got AK Interactive's Decay Deposits.
Yeah.
And I just slapped it all over it.
Yeah.
Now, that is like an enamel-based paint. MIG do similar things as well. And so then I went back with some isopropanol, or was it Sansador thinners? It might have been Sansador thinners, actually. It was Sansador thinners. And which basically is like having white spirit, but it's odorless. So it's a bit happy, it's nice to work with. And I just could put that on a cloth, literally on a piece of kitchen roll, and just started rubbing it off on all the high points. And then when I'd done that, I got a Q-tip or cotton bud, whichever way you want to refer to it, and did a few more sort of like, I'll just pick out that high ridge and that ridge. And I did that on the bell as well.
Yeah.
And that was it. And it was just, I was just like, there's like epiphany moments where you're like, painting doesn't have to be an arse.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah.
And then I did a similar thing for all the rust, which is okay. It's maybe a little bit darker than, I probably could have gone back in with some lighter rust, but I used dark rust deposits, again, from AK, and again, MIG sell it, same sort of thing, over lead belcher, and then, well, actually, no, that's not true. I used something else that somebody keeps talking to me about. I did lead belcher.
Not typhus corrosion.
Yeah, woo! I did lead belcher, and then I did typhus corrosion all over. Now I'm not sure I needed the lead belcher, in honesty, because I covered it up completely. But I put the typhus corrosion all over it, and then I put this rust stuff all over them. And then again, I was able to sort of rub some of that off in certain areas to make it a bit more patchy, and then just a very light dry brush of Stormhost silver, that sort of very bright silver, and that was it.
Yeah.
And sorry to keep going on, it was a long project. Fun though. I based all of it on very thin, sort of 0.5 of a mil plasticard.
Yeah, it's worth. Yeah. So you didn't do much of a base there, did you? So
No.
It's only maybe like 5 mil, half a centimetre either side.
Yeah, if that in some cases. All it was is I wanted to blend it to the same sort of style as my army, my Khorne army, with the snow bases and the little tufts, and I didn't feel there was any space to put that stuff, so I put these little bases on, and visually, I have to say I'm absolutely over the moon. I'm really happy with the difference it makes, and it's kind of made me feel that this is the way I'm going to move forward with terrain, with this kind of very close in, because I've been on the fence between, and we've spoken about it before, between not basing it at all, so that it can go on any battlefield, I suppose, as being one of the reasons for that, and is easy for models to move right up to the edges of, etc. Or putting it on a proper base, which again I like, but I suppose what I really want from my terrain collection is the ability to set a scene as I put it down. And I think by having these close in bases, and I'm going to do little piles of barrels on a little base that would then slot up against another pile of barrels on a little base.
You could just do texture as well.
Yeah.
And dot that around.
Yeah. So I feel like it was a real eye-opener, a really fun project to do that terrain. I really enjoyed it.
Got me excited about doing mine, actually. I've been looking forward to doing it, and then I just sort of, it went to the back of my mind, and I'd forgotten about it completely, almost. And then you started doing yours, and I've been stealing ideas and things that you've learned along the way. So there's that little extra basing I'm really excited about. I think I'm going to end up with a different approach to my 40k scenery, because I'm going to do like the mechanical industrial structures on the Necromunda bases.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
So that I can put them down as a separate thing, but if I wanted to, I can bring them together to make a Necromunda board. Which does mean that my industrial stuff is going to look pretty ancient, but
that's cool though. So what I want to do next, there's something called, I think it's called like the Shattered Plaza or something like that. There's a couple of pieces anyway, a couple of boxes. Yeah, with a cool fountain. And there's one which has got the bell in it. I don't particularly want another bell, but Chris is up for having that. But what it's got is it's got some buildings with like part of the first floor on, which brings a bit more height. And then I think if I paint that the same and combine the two, you're going to have an awesome like shattered ancient ruins for an Age of Sigmar table. And then I've got, and I have spoken about this before as an idea, but I've got these giant towers from the Chaos Dreadhold. I've got three. I've got two of the towers and one of the sort of Overlord Bastion, which is a bit bigger version. And I feel like combining that together will make it look like an ancient, like overrun force settlement of order that then Khorne's just been like, right, I shall dominate you. Build big tower, build big tower.
You know, we've spoken a lot about how to do those dread keeps before, but how would you find, or how would you feel about going for the brass look and doing them the same as the head? So doing them all in the brass, rune or brass, weathering them, and then going in with washes of red to give it the red.
Yeah, that's probably what I would do.
Something like Flesh Terror to just sort of, and blood effects, so it looked like you're getting the red from something else. I think that would look really ace, and that would take a lot less time than your original plan, which was to do them red with the gold trim, which I think would kill you.
I'm never doing that.
Absolutely destroy
No.
you.
So to sort of wrap up, really, I've also started working on Aspire Tyrants Warband, because I've been playing a lot of Warcry and really, really loving it. Loving it. Like, been down to sort of 45, 50 minutes a game, and then you can play 2 or 3, and it's just ace. Really, really good and very cinematic. Some fantastic moments, like leaping off stuff and crashing into things. It's been really cool. And beasties, you get like we started using the roaming beasties, and I absolutely love them. Constantly just trying to bite people's kneecaps with the bird ones.
You've forgotten your spontaneous purchase.
Oh yeah, no, I haven't forgotten it. I wasn't going to get away with that.
No, you were not.
I bought the Ogroid Myrmidon,
which is just a lush
which
model.
is just amazing, and he fits well. I'm painting him at the same time as the Spire Tyrants to link him in, and I'm also painting up the Dark Oath War Queen, which I've had for ages, and I'm painting her again. I'm painting her up as part of the Spire Tyrants band. Bit annoying. I've mucked them up a bit because I've tried to do Zenithal with the rattle cans again, which I have done before, but I've left too much of the flesh a bit dark, so the contrast isn't gonna. I don't think it's going to work properly, so I'm going to have to probably bring a bit of that up a little bit with a brush first before I put the contrast over the top, because it is too dark. And I bought the Warcry figure case because you got to dive into these things, haven't you?
Can't help yourself. And
then I thought, you know what? I spent all this time painting Chaos, painting Khorne. I really, really need a break. So I bought Scarbrand.
Which, of course, is now your fourth Bloodthirster, am I right?
No, third.
Lies.
It is only my third, so I've still got one more to do after this one.
Have you got it?
To have one of each. No,
No,
I will get it.
See, when you got the fourth one, then it's the dead cert. You're on to 8.
I'm halfway to 8 then, aren't I? So, yeah. I mean, Dan Wasley's going to come on in the Mortal Realms to talk about an event we went to, and then all becomes a bit more clear because I came home from an event where what?
You did fantastically.
Listen, I will save it for the Mortal Realms, but I think everybody knows quite how likely that is to have happened. But ultimately, I came home and bought a more powerful Bloodthirster, so I think that tells you everything you need to know about how that went.
You can't just keep opening the next Bloodthirster box, Dan.
You can't solve all our problems by buying another Bloodthirster.
The hell I can't!
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that was great. So yeah, I'm doing him. Just built the model straight out of the box, but I'm making him a giant base with, I think there's 69 skulls on the base at the moment. So
69, recurring number.
I should just go up to 88, but I just can't stand taking off any more mold lines. You came up with a good idea, didn't you?
Yeah.
So Ben said, like, in a fish and chip shop, you get these potato peeling machines where you just put them all in and then you wind a handle and it peels them all. We need the same thing, but in miniature for taking mold lines off tiny skulls.
In fairness, I'm up for it, taking the mold lines off of everything.
Yeah, well, so, yeah, that would be good. That would be good.
Because honestly, hand on heart, it's the only part of this hobby that I would happily just get rid of. Like that. Bam. Done. Get rid of it. Never have to do it again. Hate mold lines. Having said that, having recently cleaned the mold lines off of a billion elves from like the 90s and early noughties, I can say with a degree of certainty that mold lines now are nothing like what they used to be. They were horrendous.
That's true.
I'd forgotten just how bad they were.
So you've been marching through some Spacewolf.
Yeah, so it's been a hell of a project, really, because the idea was to get all of my Astartes Spacewolves done so then I could put them to bed because, and I'm right, the release this weekend is another good example of why it was absolutely vital that if I didn't do them now, there was a good chance that they would just
never get done.
So I I've done the whole lot at once and as a batch, but I have a standard that I have to, in my head, do my Space Wolves at, minimum standard.
Which you keep adding to.
Yeah, I do. And to be honest, there's been a lot of mistakes along the way. So I've done the armor in a way that now, retrospectively, I feel like I should have just done them the same as I did my Primaris and Zenith them using the airbrush and just had done with it, because I could have saved literal days doing that. But I didn't. I've sort of gone for a sort of zenithal style of painting, like a light source style of painting with them, and I think it looks great, but it's just took a long time. And also I washed them all with like a brown wash, which I don't think now is necessary, because I've decided to add in the final stage at the end, which we'll come on to later. So the yellow, I've also added in more of a brown transition, but I've been going back. That looks
really good.
I've been doing that on because it's something I've been talking about for ages, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is getting a brown transition on the yellow, and I've added that onto my old Blood Claws and my old Long Fangs and my oldest squad of Grey Hunters, are the first ones that I finished painting up. And I will be going back and doing it on all the Primaris as well, which won't take me too long because there's only like 20 of them. And I've highlighted the red up an extra stage that I did on the Primaris, and then I'm going back and doing that on the Primaris as well, because I found that in room light you couldn't see the difference very easily between the black and the red, which really irritated me actually. So because I quite like keeping my colours a little bit more muted, so I've highlighted that up a bit more.
I think that was a good choice, I have to say. Just, I think making them pop a little bit more. Yeah,
and actually, when you turn the light off on the desk, you can see the reds and the yellows and the blacks are much clearer. So I think that, for me, is a good indicator that it was the right decision. As much as it was a complete ball ache, and it will be to go back and do it on all the Primaris, I think is something that just needed to be done.
It's important sometimes, particularly with, well, I'm sure it is. I'm sure people would say it is for single miniatures, but I find for army painting to, when you finish for a session, go away. When you come back, review what you're doing, but before you put your hobby light on, and in some natural light, and there's loads of views on the right kind of bulbs and all the rest of it. And I
use 2 bulbs, so I have a yellow bulb and a white bulb.
Yes, I mean, I have to say I quite like a bright bulb. I think I'm just used to it. I think when I was younger, I used to paint with it. And now I do the same, and it is very bright. But I'm like that around the house as well. Harriet's forever like, turn the lights off. What are you doing? It's sunny outside. And I'm like, but I can't. It's not burning my retinas, so it's not bright enough.
I feel the same about my hobby desk.
But but it is worth coming back and having a look, because you lose what it will look like on the table. It might look a lot brighter than it does. It's kind of why I ended up doing snow bases, like for my corn, and then and adding in a highlight on all the gold and stuff, because actually once it was on the table, it just didn't pop like it did on the mat on the under the lamp.
Yeah. So I've also gone back and made my original squad of Grey Hunters. I'd done bronze trim on their shoulder pads. I've gone back and done those in the color of their plates, which is the Spacewolf Grey. But it's just because I felt that they had too much metallic on them and they looked too veteran. And actually, it's really easy to over veteran Space Wolves because there's so many accessories on the sprues that you can end up with guys that could be a captain. Look, there's just a standard squad member. So I've gone back and made the trim Space Wolf Grey, with the idea then that the Long Fangs and the Wolf Guard will then have bronze trim on their shoulder pads, and then the Lord and the Wolf Guard, like battle leaders, will have gold, just to make them all stand out a bit. which I think again took extra time, but worth doing. There's been some things that I've really had to fanny around with, like the fur. I just could not do quickly for the love nor money. I must have gone over that about 15 times and reworked it, and now I'm sort of to the point where I'm relatively happy with it. But my first idea worked really well, but I think I made it too yellow. I added in a yellow into the fur, and that didn't work. So I've had to go back and rework a lot of it. But that was again, if I'd have done it all on one squad and then expanded it out to 80, I wouldn't have had any of these problems. It's really frustrating when you have to repair something over 80 models. It's infuriating. But yeah, no, the transfers are on now as well.
Oh, really?
Which,
that's a big step.
Yeah, they're all done. That was a huge step. It took about 4 hours to do all the transfers across all of them.
They're one of that's one of those sneaky steps, I think, where you think it won't be long, because actually in your brain you're like thinking about how much time it's saving you from not having to paint it all. But actually it still does take quite a while to do transfers properly.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely, because you got gloss varnish it first, then put the transfer on with your microset and so, and then go over afterwards. It's
not to mention the amount of swearing that goes into the process.
Yeah. So the only thing I've got left to do now is I've left all of their faces, because I want to individually do their faces, because they're such a key part of Spacewolf model. I wanted to do that. I have got to do the plasma glow on all the plasma weapons, highlight the black. I'm halfway through highlighting the bone and claws, and I've got to highlight the leather. And then the last thing to do is the weathering and the edge highlighting and all the power armor. And then they're done. Apart from the last stage, which I've decided to add in, which is the a wash with streaking grime, which I just absolutely love. I tried it because one of the Tom the Tank was going on about it, and I thought actually I could keep meaning to try it, because I think it does add that little bit of extra grimdark that I was looking for, without getting rid of all of those highlight pops that you've been aiming for. And I'm really happy with how it looks on the 2 test models, so I'm going to be doing that across the army.
Tom's a bugger, because he goes and sees these things, and then he gets so passionate, excited about them, that you just have to do it and try it out. Honestly, he's well on the streak and grime at the moment. I worry if I sat still near him long enough, he'd bloody streak and grime me. It's ridiculous.
So hopefully when this is all done, I will have the best part of 60 Grey Hunters finished, 15 extra Blood Claws, 6 Sky Claws, and 6 Long Fangs extra, all done, which is a huge amount, as well as having revamped my original Grey Hunters, because they just needed it. They were done a long time ago, and they needed bringing in line with everything else. And
they've written all the first generation Marines out of the new codex, don't you?
So yeah, I'm. It's been a long project. It's been the best part of 2 months now, but it's it might even be 3 months kicking on now. Actually, 2.5 months. But I think the other thing is I haven't been putting as much time in the last couple of weeks because I've just been exhausted. So it's been difficult to focus and getting home and just passing out, frankly.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, life is such a balance between all the things. But I think a big part of why you're exhausted is because you're making some fantastic strides to making yourself a lot healthier, and that in the long run is going to have really positive impact.
Yeah, so I suppose that also another side hobby project that I've been working on is building my hobby shed, which has been as well, which has been pretty physical and exhausting. And frankly, putting a felt shingles on the roof of it in 28-degree heat was the least fun thing I've done in the last 6 months, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And full respect to people who do that day in, day out. Next time I will not be wearing shorts because they turn my legs into just ginormous, great big red rash. It's just brutal. But that's nearly done. Now the floor to do, power to do, and then I've got to do the insulation board on the inside, and then I'll be moving in, which Joe will be very happy about because I'll be moving out of this room, which she's desperate to get into and turn into something a little bit less cluttered and messy.
Somewhere for me to stay when I'm visiting the shed.
Yeah. And like you said, I've been. We've talked about this a lot, but at the start of the year, we might have mentioned that I had a bit of a health scare. My blood pressure went astronomical, mainly probably to do with stress, to be honest, but various other factors obviously play a part in that. And so I've been on a health spree. I've been running regularly, losing weight, and ridiculously, I might have accidentally signed up to the virtual London Marathon on the 4th of October, which I will be walking quickly, not running, because I'm definitely not capable of running it. But we did a practice one today, 11.8 miles in 3.5 hours. And my feet are now just basically a big blister.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to work out whether I made a big decision, a big mistake. Sorry, I think I might have done.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yes, but we're doing that for Fleet, which is the Frontline Emergency Equipment Trust, which a couple of my colleagues are frontline doctors, and they're part of it, and it's a great charity.
Yeah, well, we're going to put a link up to that.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do that. They provide a lot of the community defibrillators in the southwest, which is frankly life-saving. Defibrillators save lives. CPR is only a stopgap before you can get a defibrillator, realistically. So the amount of lives that they've saved just by providing those in local communities is really difficult to quantify.
Well, I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
which I've said to
you. Hopefully, I might get to go and see the helicopter because I just flipping love helicopters. I can't get enough of helicopters. When I used to work in A&E, I used to run out to the helicopter every time it landed because I was like, I want to be there, I want to let the helicopter. Yeah, I love it.
I was talking about helicopters earlier, but that was in the context of if I was to win the lottery, I would buy a house in Cornwall and a house in North Wales and fly between the two because I love both places.
Carbon footprint would be tiny.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
In North Wales?
Yeah.
I didn't realise you had any affinity to North Wales.
Oh, mate, there's loads of tiny trains in North Wales.
The railways, yes.
It's replete with tiny trains.
Oh, yeah.
I love tiny things. My wife.
Miniature trains are like superb.
I love tiny trains. I love tiny models. My wife's really small. It's like some kind of weird reverse compensation for being huge.
Yeah. So now we're recording in a slightly different way. I have no idea how long we've been banging on for.
Probably too long, as that seems to be a common factor. So I think because there was so much awesome announced today, it would be a great time to go into the galaxy of war.
Absolutely.
Okay, welcome listeners to the grim darkness of the far, far, far future. Where it's grim.
It is grim.
There you go.
They could do with brushing their teeth a bit more.
Yeah. Now, before we get into the amazing awesomeness that's been previewed and come out, I need to talk about Valdor.
The book.
Oh my goodness. So I have steered away from the heresy novels for quite some time because I've been worried that if I just dip in, I'll have missed things. And actually, it's quite a trawl getting through everything on the audiobooks. And I've
60 odd of them.
Oh, there's loads. And I've been enjoying a bit of Callus and Toll and some of that stuff in the Mortal Realms. But I've got a load of credits built up because I haven't been listening to books as much recently. And I thought I'd try Valdor. It's just incredible, mate. It is just so good. So it's set, and I'm not going to give away any of the story, but it's set on Terra at the birth of the Imperium. So it deals with Thunder Warriors. I can't really say. Suffice to say, the book opens at a point that there are Thunder Warriors, there are Custodes, and the Primarchs have not yet been scattered. And that's how far back it is. And Valdor is an absolute legend. It's so good. It's so good, mate. And it's really interesting. And it's a really cool insight onto just how far the Emperor, Valdor, Malcador go to create the Imperium.
The way they treat the Thunder Warriors is a dark part of Imperial history, really.
Yeah, but not just the Thunder Warriors, it turns out. And it's quite remarkable, actually. And you kind of, it makes you think, you got to remember that like the Emperor is just looking at things on just a completely different stage, just completely different.
He's very rational minded. It's very rational minded, very black and white, very numerical, very how does the species survive, like you say. To him, I think his mind works on such a different level that individuals are, they don't have the same currency as to everybody else.
It's really interesting because there's a great bit. I think I tried not to give stuff away, but I did love this bit, and it's not a massive giveaway, but it's just interesting. There's a fantastic bit when one of the key players in the gene manipulation stuff is considering why the Emperor needs them, because he's so intelligent. And the conclusion she draws is that he is so perfect, essentially, that he struggles to accept creating something that is not perfection. And actually, the reason he brings humans on board is because they are capable of compromise. And that's what he needs to move forward. Because like the Custodes are the absolute pinnacle of this gene manipulation art. And they're created really early on, but he simply cannot create enough of them to just have them.
Yeah.
Because they are just incredible. So yeah, if you haven't listened to Valdor or read it, do. I kid you not, looking at the model for like 20 minutes on Forge World thinking, I just want that on the shelf. But I don't trust myself because it wouldn't be just him on the shelf.
No, you don't.
Because they are so amazing. Yeah.
Do you reckon they'll ever release a model for the Emperor? I think they will. I think you'll end up with a Horus at the final battle model and an Emperor at the final battle model.
Yeah. I mean,
just as a model, that people would want that just as a model.
Yeah,
there's no reasonable reason to create a set of rules for those 2P, because there's books which basically demonstrate, like, the Emperor's psychic power was to an extent where when he arrived on Nostromo, or whatever the planet of the Night Lords is, anyone who looked directly at him was blinded by his magnificence. And the first captain, sort of, I forget his name, the really, really good one.
Sevatar,
that's it. He's sort of pondering on the issue and realizes that other people have looked directly at him and not been blinded. So it was a choice that the Emperor made to make an impact on his arrival to Nostromo, or whatever it's called, to basically have that effect on people with his psychic powers. And we're talking like a whole crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. And anyone who looked directly at him was essentially blinded in some way. You can't manifest that sensibly as a set of rules. I don't think you can, because if you put him on a table against anything other than Horus, it's just over. It's just done. But the model itself would be...
Do you know what would be amazing is if they did, and it would be stupendously expensive, but you know how they did Sanguinius versus the Bloodthirster, and they did more and more like Russ versus Magnus.
Yeah,
they need to do the Emperor versus Horus and recreate the Mike McVeigh. Is it Mike McVeigh or
Scenic Base? Yeah,
that diorama.
Yeah, it's great,
don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Adrian Smith's piece of art, which is based on an older piece of John Blanchard, I think.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So
black and white sketch.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. Anyway, we are ruminating on things that aren't even the exciting things that are actually coming out. But definitely go listen to that book. So where would you like to start, Mr. Hall?
So I'd like to start. We actually, incredibly, we've just worked out that we haven't even talked about Indomitus and the release. And Dan and I opened the box set together on a Zoom meeting. And to be honest, but let's give the whole picture. When we got to that point, I personally, I'm not going to speak for Dan, he's more capable of doing that himself, was in a pretty dark place about the 40k release. And it was almost entirely due to how poor I thought the app was. I thought it was terrible. And I don't want to overham it, but I think as a product that Games Workshop has released, it's the worst one they've done in my memory. The quality of the product, the value for money, everything about it was just abysmal. So that very seriously coloured my view on the whole thing, really, and I was in a bit of a grump about it. However, as with all of these things, when I had the box set in my hand, the doubts dropped away like, washing yourself after a hard workout. It was just cleansing. It was fantastic. And I don't think there's a single part of that Indomitus box that I wasn't absolutely in love with. So the models in it, we've already spoken about them as they were released, lived up to my expectations, and then some in person. I think they're absolutely fantastic. They are taking box set models to a whole next level, which we all say every single time they release a box set. The push fit models are never going to get better than this. We said that about all of them, and they do every time, and somehow we're always surprised. They do every time, and yeah, they're fabulous. I haven't got to work on them because I've been working on my Spacewolves, but I'm very, very excited about getting them. Basically, by the time I'd opened Indomitus, I'd already put my made-to-order in for another box for my Spacewolves, because we worked out the value for money was just incredible. But But miniatures aside, they've again, this is a double-edged sword. So the rule book has changed size again, which is really frustrating as a collector, that we just continuously changing the size of books. Whereas I suppose that's irritating on the background that when for best part of 15 years, every book was exactly the same size. So it's only irritating in that respect. But the core rulebook being bigger means that the pages are bigger, and it's just a better book, isn't it, Dan? You know, as a book, it's just a better book. And I cannot explain how excited I was reading a short story about Pryad, the Iron Snake. Oh my God. Oh, I nearly had a meltdown. So Pryad is still flipping ridiculous, having spent the best part of 5 years on an orc-infested planet, beating the snot out of everything that moves. Wonderful short story. If you haven't got it, haven't read it, find it in the book. It's brilliant. It's another one of those reminders, and I love the fact that it's Iron Snake, because Iron Snake for me was the modern book that put a pin in the map and said, this is how good an Astartes is. This is it. This is how it works. And this one, as far as I'm concerned, followed straight on from that. You know, the fact that a Space Marine can basically be on an orc planet, and I think they're not as technically advanced as the orcs that play on the board, on the table. There's not as many firearms, but can be on an orc planet for 5 years, not sleep, really. You know, apart from shutting down half his brain, carry on working, carry on going, carry on pushing, and just consider that as part of his day job. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I love that, like, there's this little bits it drops in, like, he knows that this is the highest point on the Western continent because he's been everywhere in the Western continent. So he knows it is. So when he says, I'm going to be at the highest point in the Western continent, that is without a shadow of doubt where he is. Loved it, absolutely loved it. I'm actually hoping now that all the new books will be in that size, because there's just something about the extra room they've got on the page, isn't there? I know it might not be really obvious, I suppose, to some people, but I feel when I opened the book, it felt more like a proper, big book filled with good stuff. Absolutely loved it. So that's my view on the Indomitus box. I bought two because I was going to buy the core box, but I've had reservations about the core box on price, not on content. I've come around to the content. I think having a box set, what's it called? Is it called the Crusader box?
I'm not sure. I know there's like the Elite edition, isn't there? There's the Elite, the next level up, and the level
Commander.
above that.
Commander box, I think it's called, isn't it? What is effectively the starters kit. Love the fact it's got actual scenery in, and an actual board, and 2 armies. It's a proper starters kit, and a smaller hardback version of the rule book. But I think it feels a little bit odd being over 100 quid. I think that was a win for me. That was a ceiling that.
Yeah, you are right. There's a Recruit edition. Then there's the Elite edition, and then there's the Command edition.
Yeah, Command edition.
So I think it's worth saying, like, because I haven't really said a lot, but it's interesting how quickly even someone that's excited by the hobby can go down a bit of a spiral of getting a bit grumpy if you're not careful. So the example for me with new 40k is I think right from the get-go, a bit of me felt it was too soon. And that sort of then coloured things. So the app thus far not really been the app we were hoping for. Certainly against the Age of Sigmar one. Although I do acknowledge they are updating things. And I think more importantly, And yes, ultimately you would say they're not going to come out and just say this is rubbish, but as often they do, the community team hyped it so much and set such a store of expectation on it that it was almost doubled the impact of it not quite being what we were hoping for.
It wasn't a finished product when it came out, not even close to being a finished product.
No. So, and then it was things like, why is the measure, the combat gauge, 5 inches when loads of stuff in the game, the most common movement is 6.
Yeah.
So that was a bit weird. The fact that the box of objectives came on 50mm bases, even though in the rule book it suggests 40mm, that was a bit weird.
Yeah.
So there was a few things, and it just seemed to sort of focus in on those things. Like,
it's hard to get past the negatives, wasn't it? Yeah.
And I would say, I don't know about yourself, but I've moved through that now, and I'm very excited. I think the rule book had a massive part to play on that, like just the visuals and the stuff in there. And I think, just to touch on your point about the price of the starter sets, I think importantly, I don't think either of us feel that they're not value for money.
They're great products, and they are
they are value for money, and they're great products. And actually, that Command Edition is absolutely the starter set that is needed to introduce you to a range, the range of things within the hobby. Putting that scenery there right at the beginning of the journey, so it's not the kind of the side bit that you add on. I think that's all really good.
Yeah.
I think our sort of concern, and ultimately at the end of the day, Games Workshop and the people that they have doing all their prices and stuff have far more experience than we do. But I just worry. I just don't think you should put barriers
to beginners.
And I feel like breaking the £100 point is an unnecessary barrier. But who knows? Hopefully Games Workshop stocks and new entrant people and stuff will just keep going up. I just think perhaps it's just because we both spent time working in Games Workshop retail, and it was constantly about new people playing with the miniatures. Now, Games Workshop are doing fantastic, and I don't know the answer to this next rumination, but what I would say is I hope that growth in sales is not all coming from
pre-existing
people just buying more stuff, because that's not longevity. I don't think it is all of that. I think there's a lot of people coming into the hobby from all sorts of different angles now. So people coming in on the computer game side of things and on the board game side of things and all stuff like that. And also you've got the fact that there's, Games which are expanding and reaching out to new parts of the world and the globe with different products. So they're obviously reaching new people. I just hope that they don't put a price barrier into new people getting into playing with the models.
Yeah, I agree.
But we'll see. It's just a rumination.
And at the same time, if I was a parent, or because that's, if we're being honest, that's the sort of mindset you'd have to have when you're considering this, or even a teenager walking into a Games Workshop, I would be questioning why Soul Wars had more miniatures in it and the big rule book and was priced so much lower, best part of 10 quid lower, which I suppose isn't that much when you look at it. It's it's only £15. I think Command is 110, isn't it? And Soul Wars is 95, but it's a big difference when one of them is 3 numbers and one of them is 2. Is what I'm getting at. That it doesn't matter if it's only a couple of quid. Actually, there's a big difference there. I think the 100 quid mark just seems like an odd place to go. But like you said, we don't know. I am denied about getting it for the scenery, but then changed my mind when they released the box set of scenery that's going to be coming out, which leads us perfectly on to the next bit, which was the reveal about 4 weeks ago that they did about 40k and various things. So they did a bit of everything, didn't they? But the 40k stuff really got me excited. So the thing that really got me excited, and anyone who knows me knows that I think that narrative play is easily my favorite part of 40k, and competitive play I struggle with, because I think the fact that you're in competition with the person you're playing with can sometimes make it less fun. I'm going to put it out there. For a lot of people that's not true, but that's my personal opinion. But the competitive play book really got me excited. Like, genuinely really excited me, because basically what it talks about is bringing scenery into the competitive game of 40k, so that you would be required, or part of your army would be, a set of scenery that went with that army that you could tailor to give your army an advantage. So if your army has advantages in, let's just say, for sake of argument, ruins, and having dense cover to sneak through is an advantage, you would buy that set so that you had lots of places to hide to advance on the enemy. Or if you wanted a big thing that gave you overwatch, so you could see in loads of different areas of the battlefield height, so you can stick your heavy troopers on there. You wanted that, you could take that with you, so you didn't always have to worry about getting that onto the table somewhere, or what board you're going to be playing. And that is just awesome, because it means, from a hobby perspective, people are going to be buying scenery and painting it to tie in with their army. That is a win, however you look at that. That is so exciting and fabulous, and I cannot wait to see armies with themed scenery coming with them to tournaments. I think that's going to be bonza. It's going to help people organising tournaments, because people will be bringing their own scenery with them. It's going to help gaming clubs for exactly the same reason. It just excites me in so many ways. It's a fantastic idea. And I suppose it's a really obvious idea, having the Age of Sigmar scenery that's, basically been a part of Age of Sigmar now for the best part of 2 years, I think. Every army that's come out has got a new piece of scenery, apart from the Lumineth Realm Lords Games Workshop, Where Is My Elven Tower? Come on. Where is it?
I don't think you've got anything for your Oryx either, have you?
No. Mustn't grumble, though. But you could use the Moonshrine for... I use them. I love the Moonshrine.
Even my Khorne army got a Wizard Tower.
Get a Wizard Tower. But I love the idea of scenery mixed in. On the other side of that, the narrative book, they released a book which they described it as like a DLC. So for your Crusade armies, special weapons, special rules, special environments for playing in a specific area. In this case, and I've forgotten the name of it, the Necron area, which Indomitus has set. So people can paint, theme, design an army based entirely on that book and that setting, to have a Crusade army for that book. And obviously they will bring out other ones for other settings, which I think is a fantastic way of rolling in things like Indomitus, the Psychic Awakening books, advancing storyline with having a Crusade setting there. Again, I think that's a fantastic idea, and I'm loving that. So between those two releases, I was hopping with excitement, and I immediately got on the messaging you and was excited. This is the...
You were very excited about those books.
I don't get that excited about rules books, other than the pretty pictures, and that's about it really. But and the background. Sorry, but those two things really excite me because it brings the hobby into the book. The actual modelling hobby is into the book. So your Crusade armies, where you're basing, you're painting, you're designing your Crusade army to fit with that book, and the scenery for your tournament army being part of the army, it's just fabulous ideas. And what they're going to be doing is very much like the Kill Team terrain sets. They're going to be releasing terrain sets that you can buy that will have roughly the amount of scenery in that you would need for your army. And is the main reason I won't be buying the command box, because they're releasing the terrain that's in there separately in one of these boxes. And I think that's
called like Vertius or Vertigus or something, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm very, very excited about that, because I love those kind of big boxes of scenery. I'm going just going on now, Danny. Do you want to say anything before because I could keep going? Beyond the Veil is the Mission Pack Crusade book. Yeah, Vertigus is the scenery pack.
No, so I mean, it's just really, I mean, my mind's just thinking on to more recent reviews. So talking about scenery, quite clearly some Death Guard specific piece of terrain.
That's in the review video this weekend, yeah.
Obviously, we've seen the crazy, whatever it's called, bunker of death that the Space Marines are getting, and the Necron awesomeness, obelisk things.
So we're going to see more of it, more army-specific stuff.
Yeah, it looks that way, doesn't it? Because I know Chaos have got the Noctilith crown, haven't they?
Yeah.
At the moment, which is pretty cool. So today we found out that certain bearded wonder is getting his new codex this side of Christmas.
Yeah, last time Spacewolf 1 was right at the back end, so I'm quite excited that it's at the front end. But it's a codex supplement, and we don't really know exactly what that is yet. They've described them, but it's hard to tell. I'm worried that it's not going to have all the rules in there, and by that I mean that you'll need the Space Marine Codex as well as the supplement to play that army, which I just think is a bit of a pain in the ass.
Well, I would say that's almost certainly going to be the case, because that is exactly what a supplement is.
Yeah, but not always. You know, like the Codex supplements in 3rd edition, the Spacewolf one was a supplement to and that was they were self-contained army lists. I would prefer it if it was one codex, but I think having to have 2 books is frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah, you do need a lot of books at the moment, don't you?
Forces you into the digital for when you're actually playing the game, especially if you're away from home.
Yeah,
or you could use the new app.
So the other new codexes, so you've got Necrons, who are still getting more cool new stuff. So it looks like we've got plastic flayed ones I've seen today. And
it doesn't get more grimdark than that. They are.
No, it doesn't.
Horrible.
And even more destroyers. Loads of destroyer type stuff, isn't there? Which is quite cool. I love that. What's that dude with like the face coming out of the energy that's swirling up round him? Pyromancer type thing. I'm sure it is.
I think it's a pyromancer, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is as well.
Yeah, the Space Marine release today and the Necron release was just massive. There's basically a whole new army been revealed for both of them. So for the Necrons, as much as the Codex has come out, skip past rules. Better pictures of the Silent King. Oh, I set off the preview video. Shush now. Better pictures of the Silent King, which I love. You've then got the Ophidian Destroyers, which back to those snaky ones, which I didn't think they were going to go back to, because those original models were metal and they were horrendous. Even if you pinned them, they broke. The flayed ones are just fantastic. Then you have the Chronomancer and the Psychomancer are the two commander level ones, which are very cool.
Yeah, that Psychomancer, I think that is just superb. That is great.
Yeah, he's clearly one of those ones that has just sort of given up on having a humanoid body.
Yeah. Did you like the thing that in the Space Marine Codex, as part of a crusade, you can put a character that dies in battle into a dreadnought. I thought,
yeah, I do. Love it. Absolutely love it. And then for the Space Marines, we have the confirmation of the heavy intercessors, with the heavy bolt rifle as their armament, and of course the Eradicators kit. And then we've got the multi-part kits for the Blade Guard Veteran and the Close Assault Intercessors. And finally, after many, many months of grainy-ass pictures, we have the Storm Speeder.
Yes, the new land speeder badassery that we've finally seen. Absolutely love that. Absolutely. It's Primaris through and through, isn't it? It's just bigger with more guns. So, yeah, I like that. I took the other thing I really like that I spotted was a repulsor thing with twin autocannon type looking things for Blood Angels, similar to the Baal Predator type idea.
I did not spot that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was in the army photo when they were doing these are the 4 codexes that are coming out.
Excellent.
I am now utterly convinced that January I'm getting new Khorne Berserkers.
Why?
Because I'm not getting them this side of Christmas.
Oh. So there's nothing to base that on other than I want them.
They've got to happen. They have got to
really?
happen.
I'm not sure they do.
They will happen, dude.
Yeah, sometime.
At some point, I am going to get another influx of axe-wielding loons.
Yeah, I know. Joking aside, they are needed and they will be fantastic, and I cannot wait for it to happen for you. Because they are needed.
What's going to happen, of course, is they're going to go like mad on Khorne and hit me with 40k Khorne and fantasy Khorne, Age of Sigmar Khorne, sorry, at the same time.
You have a whole 100 models more to paint.
It's all good. I can cope with that.
So one thing I got quite excited about is in the release pics for the Spacewolf Codex, there is not any new models that I could see, but they appear to have painted the Reavers in a slightly different color scheme to how they painted them before. So in a 2-tone darker armor, which I am going to fully claim I did first. I'm very happy about. But I'm wondering whether they're going to be a special form of Spacewolf Reaver, which would be very exciting. Because the Spacewolf Scouts have always been different. So I'm very excited to see that. I'm really excited about this codex because I really hope it clarifies how the new Spacewolf organization works, because at the moment it just doesn't make sense to me. It's not been thought out properly. Where's a blood claw? What is a blood claw? They're not a scout. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm really hoping it puts it to bed, so that we have an idea of what actually happens now in the current universe when a Space Marine joins the Space Wolves. What happens to them? Or if Fenrisian joins the Space Wolf, what happens to them? How do they progress? Because if they've lost that kind of difference, I think it's going to be a real shame. My personal view, because the fact that the Blood Claws were different from the Space Marine Scouts has been one of the fundamental differences to the Space Wolves for some time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be a shame.
Yes. So the other thing to talk about, finally, just before we sign off, is the new Necromunda excitement. So we've now seen the third book.
Yep.
Book of Iron. And it's the Orlok, House Orlok. And they've released a whole bunch of new models that I absolutely love. Loving the kind of grav pack dudes with the pistols. Really, really like them. Loving the fact now that there are now female models for Orlok, when the background for Orlok is that everybody fought or could fight, or was a member of the gangs. So there should have been female models from day one, as far as I'm concerned. Unlike Goliath and Escher, which are very specific about it. So I'm very excited to see female models for Orlog. The new scenery, the new base scenery is just brilliant, Dan.
I know.
I can't imagine that isn't going to find its way onto a great number of battlefields.
Oh yeah, it's so good, mate. In fact, to be honest, I was painting the Warcry scenery. I really want to get the Necromunda terrain now. Do you know what's so fun about it is adding the details.
Yeah.
Like, so on my Warcry terrain, like doing the bits of rust and stuff was really fun. And then, but also things like blood splatter. Like, I didn't go mad with it. Like on my Muck Horn, I put quite a lot of blood on. Not as much as you would do, perhaps, but I do put quite. I mean, although when I did Skillia, the spawn, it just looks flipping ridiculous. I just got overexcited, and I was just like, and there's just blood all over him. He looks mental. But
I did much the same with my Korgrath, and I think it looks fine.
Yeah. I think I've overdone it on him, but it is what it is. To be fair, it's not going to be something I'm going to worry overly about. The fact there might be a bit too much blood on my corn spawn. But like on these, I've just done a splatter here or a splatter there, just random little ones. And I'm just loving the idea that in Necromunda you could do that. But then you could also do things like random bits of goo and like radioactive stuff.
I really want my next project to be Necromunda scenery, because I really want to do, like we've spoken before, a blending across from abandoned industrial, residential areas with a settlement wall, and absolute wasteland. I'm loving the idea of like little details like a pack of playing cards mid-game left somewhere, like modelled onto the floor or onto a table or onto the top of a barrel or a ammo crate, so that your eyes are drawn to all these little details where you're playing the game. I'm loving it, loving the idea of it. I've been mulling over for like such a long time. The only thing that's been holding me back realistically is I've had trouble getting hold of the tiles, and I think that's not just me. I think there's a lot of people trying to get hold of them at the moment. But I've only got 4.
You have to ask, right? Sorry to cut you off, but it is relevant to what you've just said about the tiles. You have to ask just how much money Games Workshop would be making if they could just keep stuff in stock.
Yeah.
Because the reason that's important is I've just saw something flick up that I've looked at. Games Workshop, as of 2 days ago, is now valued at £3.2 billion.
Yeah.
Which is more than Marks and Spencer and TUI, what was Thompson's, which I guess you would expect because that's a holiday company, which you can't think would be doing particularly well. But like a single Games Workshop share is worth £97.50.
Yeah. Should have bought them when they were a £5.
Is that ridiculous? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah, I know. I try not to think about what, like when we were working for them, how cheap we could have bought them. Could have made our fortunes just off that. But
yeah, so I mean, what I'm seeing a lot of at the moment is scratch built Necromunda scenery mixed with the stuff that you can buy, made out of like old toys and stuff.
Yeah, you've shown me loads of those. I love it.
Which is, I think, a really cool way of bulking out that scenery. One of the things that I am now stuck with, though, is for the city fight scenery, which I built a little bit of when I got the original Kill Team box. Now there's staircases, I really want to add staircases to the wall.
Yeah.
Because I just cannot stand the idea that nothing in 40k seems to have a sodding staircase. That drives me mad. I just can't get around it. Yeah. So, but unfortunately, that sprue is quite expensive on its own. So I think paying 50 quid for a set of stairs for a building is a bit much, really. But, madder things have been done.
Yeah.
So have we kind of covered off all of 40k and Necromunda now? I think we have. You've disappeared into your iPad.
I've just seen an awesome piece of terrain, Warhammer terrain. I'll share it later. Yeah, we have. The only thing I suppose left to add, if you've made it all the way to the end of the section, is just to go back to the bit where I was talking about going down this sort of negative spiral. And now I'm in a good place with it. I played a game of the new 9th edition on Wednesday. Got a little Wednesday night, well, every third Wednesday gaming night thing going on. And we played, I think it's called an incursion, but 50 power on the 30 by, is it 30 by 22?
Smaller board.
Small board. It was quite small. It wasn't as small as that, actually. It must have been bigger than that. 30 by 44.
Two kill team boards together?
Yeah, I think it was 30 by 44. Yes, it was 30 by 44. That's exactly what it was. And my goodness, you put a lot more terrain on now. Like what we decided to do, Ben Chambers and I, is we literally went right from the beginning of the basic mission, the one that's presented as like with the rules, and we followed each step, because one of the things when you start a new edition is you inadvertently leave bits of old editions in and forget changes. So we just went step by step, and we got to the scenery bit, and we basically doubled what I'd put on the table as a sort of approximation for scenery, because it's the suggestion is like 1 piece for every foot square, which soon filled up the battlefield, and it looked amazing. It looked really cool. What we did find, though, is the scenery that I'd made, because I made it quite a long time ago as sort of generic big rocks and stuff. You need terrain that you can interact with a bit more, because you've got so much of it on the board. And the game was over in a couple of turns because we started quite close and I ran really, really fast. But that wasn't really the point. The point was that we got to try out some of the stuff. And it was cool. The terrain, definitely. The terrain looked really, really good.
Yeah.
All bunched up like that. So very much looking forward to doing more with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Brilliant.
Well, with that in mind, that's enough of the grim darkness of the far future. Next, we're going to find out just how you go about not coming last at a Mortal Realms event.
Did you not come last?
No, I did not come last.
Oh. Well, that's at least something.
I think I came 17th, actually. I did. I came 17th out of 20. But below me was somebody who's like his 4th game. Somebody else who was a narrative player and had no idea that this was a competitive event.
Oh,
and somebody who drunk 2 bottles of wine. Anyway, hear about all of that and more in the Mortal Realms.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Mortal Realms. And we are joined by Dan Wasley is with us, who is going to talk a little bit, along with Dan, about Dan's catastrophic failure in the recent Age of Sigmar tournament they went to. And I'm dying to hear it. So, tell us all about it.
I'm not saying anything.
I will take great pleasure in telling you about it. I think, Dan, you might, it's best if you remain silent in it.
Yeah, probably. So
No, to be fair to Dan, I mean, we played 3 practice games in the lead up to the event, and you did really well in all of them.
Yes.
I lulled you into a false sense of security, didn't I, there a bit? Well, I'd say let you. You just absolutely decimated me with that bloodthirst of yours.
Well, that's interesting because one of the things that we were talking about, Dan, is how actually between the two of you, because Dan won your practice game so decisively, you didn't think to change your list at all or adapt it, did you? But you changed your list even on the last minute, like the night before you were rewriting your list, because you got walloped 3 times in practice.
Yeah, I think at that point it was obvious that it wasn't quite working.
It was ultimately it came down to the fact that in practice the Bloodthirster had rolled above average in every game, and in the event it rolled below average in every game. So, but if it had not rolled well in the pre-games, the practice games, I'd have probably realised that I should be taking Reapers of Vengeance to allow him to pile in an attack twice, as opposed to focusing on Bloodlords, which was giving me always strikes first and plus 4 inches movement. And actually, although obviously the nature of time and what have you can't just change one event in each thing, but fundamentally in my first game I was within 2 wounds of killing something that would have ultimately led myself and my opponent agreed would have ultimately led to my winning the battle. And in the second game the same thing happened. So in each game there was an example of where it had he been able to pile in an attack twice, he would have been okay, even with below average roll. But hey ho, I think what's frustrating is just that, and we've said this loads of times, but I'll say it again. When as you grow up, you've got less and less time, and so to put aside a whole day is quite a big deal. To then play 4 games and the dice to just shiv you is very difficult, very frustrating. Chris insists that I should stop. I think you said the same, actually, Ben. Should stop taking so much enjoyment from actually winning. But the trouble is, you spend ages painting. If stuff's just not effective, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by what I said. That actually, if your enjoyment from the game comes from winning, then you're almost certain to be disappointed at some point because you're not always going to win. But having said that, going to a tournament, your first tournament in a long time, and losing in every battle, that, it doesn't matter whether you're there for the models, there for the personal interactions. It's still going to feel bad, and it's still going to not be great. We should sort of elaborate on what the tournament was. So it was I don't know the details, but it was an Age of Sigmar tournament at Bristol Independent Gaming, and it was run by Duncan. And what was the points, guys?
And the point was to go and have fun and play games.
No, the points, the size of the armies.
1,000 points.
1,000 points.
Plus
and how many games?
200 points for a custom hero.
Oh.
From the Anvil of Apotheosis.
The Anvil of Apotheosis, didn't it?
Did that work well?
Yeah, I think Duncan came up with a way to kind of balance it, because I think when it came out, we all saw the absolutely ridiculous over-the-top heroes that would just shoot something off the table or be, ethereal with a 1+ armor save or whatever you can put your points into. And he came up with a way of balancing it, where you can only have 1 perk from the list per. So I don't know, if you want to increase your armor save, you can only do that once. If you want to increase an attack, you can only do that once.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped balance it out a little bit more.
And how many games did you play across the day?
4.
And how did you do, Dan?
I did well in the morning, and then in the afternoon it all went a little bit pear-shaped.
Is it because you had too much Big Mac? Instead of food hangover.
Well, we went to Subway for a change.
Oh.
Dan, you probably, if you run through your games,
Yeah, okay.
that would be pretty cool.
So I took Living City, which isn't a surprise. My general was Assassin, so I could have some Shadow Warriors as battle line. My other battle line was Unit of Eternal Guard, and then I had 10 Sisters of the Watch, 1 Gyro Bomber, and 4 Fulminators.
And what did you change the night before?
The night before, I didn't have the Shadow Warriors, and after playing that, I felt like my ability to grab objectives late game or not having anything that would fly, I couldn't get over certain units or around the back as easy as possible. I got screened out quite easily by Dan, so I changed a few things. I put the Gyro Bomber in as well to give me something with fly, just to get around and have a bit more reach around the table.
Yeah, that's something that you're pretty keen about, isn't it, Dan? Having mobility to move around and take objectives.
I've always tried to. It used to be in Warhammer Fantasy. There were like 4 phases, like movement, shooting, magic, and combat. I guess it's still the same. And I always tried to. If I could control 2 or more of the phases, then I'm kind of doing all right. And movement was always my favourite phase, and it still is. It's the most complicated and the most annoying, but I think if you nail it, then I think that's what it's about, really.
Yeah.
So, game 1 was Battle for the Pass, and I played against Tim, who also had a Cities of Sigmar army. He took Tempest Eye, like a Drake Spawn style Tempest Eye, so it had Drake Spawn Chariots, Drake Spawn Knights, and it had a Dreadlord on the Black Dragon, which was really scary because in Tempest Eye you get +3 to your move in the first turn. So it always has a 12-inch move, then it has an additional 3, then it has a kind of like a command trait the way it could run and charge, and he used his command point to make that into a 6. So where are we up to now? A 21-inch move before you charge.
Oh, that's painful.
So Battle for the Pass is the one where your home objective is worth 1 point. The 2 middle objectives are worth 2 points. And if you get your enemy's objectives, you get 4 points.
Yeah.
And he took the first turn and just thought, right, I'm going to have all the objectives. So he moved his army up onto the middle ones and then long bombed his dragon straight over into my Eternal Guard, and then was kind of on point to take all of the objectives. But I guess I kind of lucked out a little bit in that the Black Dragon is quite swingy with its attacks. A lot of its attacks hit on 4s, its claws hit on 4s, and its jaws hit on 4s. And then its jaws damage is D6. And if Eternal Guard haven't moved, they have a 3+ save naturally. So I kind of got lucky that he didn't wipe out all the Eternal Guard, and then the dragon was unsupported on its own up the front. And then I could when it was my turn, I could mob the dragon and then bring the Fulminators on halfway up the table and start eating into his army. And I think it was kind of all or nothing with the dragon, and then when he lost it and I was up in his ranks with the Fulminators, that turned the battle a bit in my favour. And I think by the 4th turn, I think he didn't have anything left on the table, so I took a major victory for that one.
Oh, cool. What was your worst battle then?
My worst battle was
trying to get into the shop.
I don't really know if any of them were worse. Do you mean the worst, like the game I didn't enjoy the most, or the worst performance that I had?
The worst performance. Let's go for that.
Well, it kind of comes down to 2 in the afternoon. So by the end of the morning, I'd won my first 2 games and it was going quite well, and then I lost my 2 in the afternoon. I got quite soundly beaten in game 3, and game 4 was quite close, and it was Star Strike. And I think sometimes the stars fall on your units and sometimes they don't. But in game 3, I think I was quite soundly beaten in that one. So I played against Ivan, who has Ogre tribes, and he went on to win the event. And we played the Blade's Edge, which is like there are 6 objectives in the middle, and each one's worth a point, which is quite easy to work out. So I took the first turn and I just laid my Shadow Warriors down in the middle and took all the objectives in a big long line. And then that I thought that was I was a bit risky, but then I thought it might pay off, it might not. And then in the end, I think it did pay off because he doesn't have anything with fly. He kind of just had to move his army up to where the Shadow Warriors were and couldn't go forward and get into my lines as much. I think he was quite surprised by that because he gave me the first turn. He thought, oh, it's living cities, it's shooting. He'll be quite defensive and cagey and probably won't do anything in the first turn. But I tried my best to kind of surprise him a bit. But then his counter was really strong, as ogres are. They come in and just decimate stuff and take toys off tables. That's what they love to do. And then the game got really interesting where both of us were kind of down to only sort of 2 or 3 units on the table. But because the realm was Ulgu, which is where is the realm of shadow and all scenery, the blocks line of sight, Ivan played really, really well with that. So the living city mechanic is that if you shoot, you can move again, and that's how you get around the table and get onto objectives and get into units that you want to attack. So you're basically doubling your movement. But Ivan managed to use the terrain, being in it or behind it, really, really well. So that actually it left me no options of anything to shoot and nothing. And then I couldn't move again, and I couldn't see the things that I needed to see. And then I just kind of, there wasn't really a lot for me to do by turn 4. He just played a really, really great game and played the scenario really well, played the realm really well. What was good about the game was, although it didn't go my way, Ivan was a really great guy, a really great opponent to play against.
I was going to say that because I played Ivan as my first game, and he was a really nice guy, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, it was my favourite game, my most enjoyable game that I played, because of how close it was and how much thinking I had to do and how much strategizing there was, and also Ivan was just a real gent, to be honest. I was going to say something, but your podcast is kind of PG, isn't it?
Hey, yeah, we try to.
Okay.
Colour everyone intrigued.
We'll leave it at that, will we? All right. So now we've added it. Did you want to add anything about the tournament, Dan, or should we move on to Age of Sigma, broader Age of Sigma?
Well, I guess I quickly whiz through my games. I mean, my first game was, as I said, against Ivan with the Beast Claws. To be honest, when we were setting up, I was quite confident because I've played Beast Claws quite a bit because Ben has them. And I had the opportunity to sort of do a similar thing to what Dan's just said with the dragon, but not in turn 1. So I long bombed my Bloodthirster because I had 3 blood tithe points, which allow me to move in the hero phase and then again in the movement phase.
Yeah.
And I got into combat, but I didn't to his Realm Walker, which was holding his home objective. And it had 9 wounds and I did 7. So that was like the beginning of my frustration, I suppose. But he was a lovely guy, really good to play. Then I played Tim, and to say that we absolutely completely mucked up that game would be an understatement because we just got the scenario wrong. Didn't read it properly. Didn't realize it was only battle lines that could capture, and the dragon that Dan has already referenced. I charged in, only did 6 wounds to it with my Bloodthirster. It killed me back, which again shows the swinging nature of the dragon because, against Dan, it on the charge struggled to kill. Was it 10 Eternal Guard, dude?
Yeah, 10. 10
Eternal Guard. Whereas I charged it and went first with my Bloodthirster, and it killed me in return, 1 go. So yeah, and then it flew around capturing all the objectives, which it actually couldn't do if we'd read the battle plan properly. Then I played Duncan. So Duncan was the organizer. Again, lovely guy, but very much there just to fill the gap. So that game I actually won, which was cool. And then I played Will at the end with Ideneth. So that was an excellent experience, really, I suppose, just because I've not played Ideneth yet. And they were just everything I thought they would be. They were fast. They were sneaky. Their models were stunning. That Leviathan, the big turtle, is huge. and it looks so spectacular on the table.
Yeah, it's a lovely army.
Yeah, really nice. Low model count, but massive damage output. And very cool to see. And Will was a lovely guy as well. So it was nice. I played three armies really that I've no experience with, because although I've played Dan loads with Cities of Sigmar, the thing with Cities is every army can be so different and distinct. So Dan's army is nothing like Tim's army was. So yeah, 4 games, 3 different. I'd never played Daughters of Cain, and I'd never played Ideneth, so that was good. Enjoyed that. Yeah, I think I quite like the 1,000 points 4 games in a day format, because it wasn't maybe the case this time. If one game goes wrong, you've got like opportunities you've got more games coming, and you've got enough of them. It's difficult to put aside a whole weekend now. To do an event, but it's nice to have a 1 day. I think the next one's going to be 1 day, 3 2,000 point games. And I'm less enthused about that because it's a long game. You know, the game can, I don't know, when a game's not really going your way, it's kind of nice to know that it's only small and it's going to be over soon.
Yeah.
No, so other than that, I think that's probably the tournament. Only to say, of course, that Ben the Base came third with his Beastclaw Raiders, which was excellent. Who came second? It was Seraphon, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tommy with his Seraphon came second, and then obviously Ben the Base come third. Done a great job with his ogres. But I said that before we went in, didn't I? I said he was the one to watch, because Ben he doesn't play loads of Age of Sigmar, but he's just a really good player of games.
He keeps his eye on the ball, doesn't he, with all what's going on?
So the Beastclaw Raiders were in the top 3. 2 of them were in the top 3.
Yep.
That's a good showing.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Well, there were three in the top 4.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah, they've done really well. But I think they count as extra models for capturing objectives, which I think was really big. When you're playing smaller games, I think if you've got a big monster, it has a really big impact. But then also, if it also counts as 10 models, that's a bigger impact again. So it has on there. And then on a 4x4, if you're pushing that up through the middle and it's got a big move, it can kind of get where it needs to get to as well.
Yeah.
Because the objectives aren't spread out across 6 foot. So it really played well for the ogre guys. But they were, to be fair to them as well, they were all great players.
Awesome.
But yeah, just really big thanks to Duncan for putting it on. It was really great to go and roll some dice. The atmosphere was really good, nice and casual. No one too kind of. There were obviously people there who were competitive, but no one so competitive they wouldn't have a chat with you and stuff. Really great, and the standard of painting of the armies was really good as well. Something I was really impressed with, because we've been before to events big where the armies aren't all painted and what have you, but there's a lot of love gone into people's armies and into their own custom heroes, a lot of converting up and things like that, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, that was really nice to see.
And don't feel too bad, Dan, about your performance, because I was speaking to Clint earlier in the week, and he also went to a 1K event with Death, believe it or not, because Clint always takes Death wherever he goes with him. And he was beaten by an 8-year-old child in that event.
Oh dear.
I think
so there's hope for you. Yeah.
Whilst I appreciate the effort not to to make me feel better, I think it can't be ignored that I didn't actually play against an 8-year-old child in the event, because things may have gone differently. So moving into the mortal realms, what's on in the mortal realms? Giants, we haven't seen them yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
We have seen all the Lumineth now.
Yeah, so we've seen all the Lumineth
with their wacky dice.
Yeah, I won't be getting them.
Well, they're out of stock.
I'm a bit sort of reluctant to go out and buy dice nowadays, because 1, they seem to be really expensive, and 2, I've just got them coming out my Yazoo, so I just don't need any more dice.
I'm really sorry. My doorbell has just gone off. It's 9:30 at night. Goodness knows what it is. I'll be back in a minute.
The FBI.
Maybe it's the delivery of those dice.
Wazza, you're in your pants. Put some trousers on. So, let's talk about Warcry. Warcry have announced that they're going to have a brand new box set, which is excellent, and I really love it. So, there's two things.
Warcry generally, or just this new box?
No, the new box set. So, the first thing I love about it is that we've got two warbands in it that I think are some of the best warbands that they've done. So we have the Shadow Realm elves with their cloaks made of shadows. They're just classic models. They are dripping with old world aesthetics mixed with Age of Sigmar awesome. I just think they're fantastic. One of my favourite models in Silver Tower was the Shadow Elf. So really cool to see. The
Tenebril Shard or the Mist with the Weaver Sign.
Mist Weaver Sign. Yeah, with the sort of mirror face, and we've now got a couple of models in there. So they're going to be called the Cainite Shadow Stalkers, and it's not really completely clear as to whether or not they're Marathis, a part of that kind of group, or whether they belong to Malarian, yeah. The other ones in there has one of probably my favourite Chaos models in Donkey's years. So the Scions of the Flame, their leader, like the quasi samurai, Willow Chaos Warrior, on fire, badass, is just absolutely mint.
Yeah.
So really excited about that. In that, I would quite happily buy both of those gangs separately, just because they're both awesome.
Yeah.
So to have them both in a box set is ace. The thing that I'm really excited about the new box set is that it's a double board, and by being a double board, it's also two ways of playing in one box set. So it's going to introduce some more kind of dungeon crawlery set of rules, I think, is what they've talked about, adding a few little extra tweaks to make that a way of playing it. And on one side of the board is a board that looks very much like it's Warhammer Quest.
Heroquest, or Dungeon Keeper.
Dungeon Keeper board. And on the other side of the board, it's just a map. And when they released it, I thought, well, it's just a double-sided board. But actually, they've put in above-ground scenery as well. So some of the old Warcry scenery from the previous box set has been thrown in. So I think it's a really cool, well-rounded box set with multiple ways to play the game and the equipment to do it. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I think you get a little over 50% of the original box of above ground terrain, which is just superb. So I think we can expect that one to be knocking on the door of £100, to be honest.
Easy.
Yeah, but the terrain is
hello, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Now, everyone wants to know who was at your door.
My neighbour ordered a takeaway, and it tried to come to my house.
Pardon?
Takeaway man.
Takeaway man, but it's for my neighbour, unfortunately, and I didn't steal it. It's gone to my neighbour. And apologies to the listeners that this is only a podcast and not a video, otherwise they could have seen me in my pants.
Oh, well, I don't think anyone's too devastated about that. So the next cool release is Diachasm, which is the next season of Underworlds, and there's some pretty cool sort of hints about the warbands that are going to be in there. So the box set is going to have the Lumineth Realm Lords, and they looked spanking gorgeous in the video, and they're going to be up against Slaanesh Mortals, which looked really cool as well. And they've also confirmed that there is going to be a Seraphon warband, which is really cool.
The skink looks amazing in that. Have you seen the little frog he's got on his hip that's carrying his? Yeah. It's amazing.
It was quite fun because I was actually not long after that. I was listening to the Infinite Monkey Cage podcast where they were talking about dangerous animals, and they were talking about the frog, which is the most poisonous animal in the world, It's the dart frog, poison dart frog. It's got a neurotoxin that kills you in under 3 minutes, and there's literally nothing that anyone can do about it. And it's got enough toxin in one frog, in the sweat of one frog, to kill 2 full-sized elephants. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So, right. And finally, I'm sorry to rattle through, guys, but I really wanted to get on to the first Chaos model that has genuinely left me staring at it, wanting to buy and paint it, just because of the so many different textures and so many cool things you could do with it. The new Slaanesh champion in the box set, Shadow and Pain, I think is absolutely the best Slaanesh model they have ever done. And I'm not a Slaanesh fan by any stretch of the imagination, but that guy it mixes the kind of weird pain cult hedonism with just like the most terrifyingly brutal looking dude.
He looks amazing.
The fact that he's got a mace as well, I think, is a really cool contrast with like the Slaanesh normal sort of aesthetic of slender, sharp blades. They've got that in with all the sort of knives sticking off of his armor, but that mace is I just think it's fantastic. I think for me, he's up there in the same tier as the Dark Oath War Chief.
Yeah,
I really think.
He looks excellent. I mean, he really does.
In fact, if I was to be asked to choose a Slaanesh model in the past that I thought would represent like the Slaanesh aspect in a say a war band, I would have struggled. But now, it's him all over. So you got the Slaughter Priest for Khorne, Dark Oath War Chief, or in fact Warcry, and him. There's a number of Nurgle ones that I think I'd quite happily use. The only one I'm not really 100% on is Tzeentch. Can you think of a Tzeentch model that would go in that multi-faith warband?
The Magister on a disc that came in Aether War is pretty cool. Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. So some really cool stuff coming out from the realms of Sigmar.
Very good.
Mortal realms. Really excited about all of those.
Me too.
Have you gotten yourself into Warcry yet, Bozza?
I'm about to get myself into Warcry. So on my last practice game before the event, when I was around Dan's house, he took me to one side, even though there was only the two of us there. He kind of sort of ushered me over, and his voice kind of got a bit intimate, a bit quiet. Like that. You really need to start playing Warcry. So I was like, right, okay. And then it turned out from the preview in White Dwarf that they're going to do city rules this episode of White Dwarf. So that's just done then, isn't it? Nice and easy.
It's kind of just landed perfectly, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to playing some games with that. I think Chris, everything Chris plays, he makes look like loads of fun, doesn't he? Because Chris just is a little sort of ball of fun and energy and positivity. And when I've seen him play Warcry, but I haven't played myself, and it just looks loads of fun. So yeah, really looking forward to that. I'll be picking up White Dwarf and then making myself a warband.
Brilliant. Right, so shall we move on to the community, chaps?
I think that sounds like a good idea. Hail, glorious community! Thank you for joining us. Episode 57. As we established, probably quite late on in the hobby desk section when we worked it out. So, as normal, this is kind of our favourite section, really, where we get to look at some cool stuff and talk about it that you guys have been working on. So, Ben, you'll always start with your shout-outs. You've sent me across some awesome-looking stuff. So, do you want to tell me about the first one?
Yep, so the first one I'm going to talk about is a chap called Paint Squig. He is on Instagram, as Paint Squig 1980, and he has been doing recently a graveyard for Tabletop World. So they've recently produced or are releasing a graveyard set of scenery, and he's been painting it up for use, I believe, in their in their advertising photographs. So I absolutely love it, and he's got loads of like work in progress shots going back for months about how he's done it, and little bits of each of the individual pieces of scenery, and I think it's really fantastic. It's just got such a natural feel to it, hasn't it? Like, really has. It looks so realistic. He's used so many like techniques from like the broader modelling that it just, rather than wargaming modelling, that it just looks fantastic. And actually, on a sort of a side note from that, his undead skeletons are my favourite skeletons that I have seen in a long time. They are covered in moss and filth, and they look like they've just crawled out of a forest floor, and I just love them. Absolutely love them. And my brother has got a whole ton of the original plastic skeletons that he gave me. And it's my intention to strip them, maybe purchase some shields or something to go with them, because not all of them have got shields, and then do them like this, like absolutely filthed up, coming out the floor. It's just a big inspiration. And so his page mostly at the moment is undead for obvious reasons, and this graveyard. Sorry, lost the plot in my head for a second. It's also worth pointing out that this guy is an exceptional foam sculptor of scenery, and it doesn't take you long scrolling back for his page to find some blistering foam work that he's done. So I really encourage you to have a look at that, and have a look at his page. I'm pretty sure we've called him out before, but I don't care. I will if I accidentally call people out multiple times for their awesome work, it doesn't really bother me that much at all. The next one, Dan remembered the name of the model that this guy's been sculpting straight away off his head, but there is a chap called 2P's Madness. 2P's Madness. Sorry if I've absolutely destroyed that name. And he has been sculpting go for it, Dan, because I've forgotten already.
Inquisitor Karamazov.
On his Throne of Judgment. And it is absolutely golden. He's popped it on what looks to be a Titan's legs, Abdectus Titanicus legs.
Yeah.
And it just looks fantastic. It really does. He's got some other awesome stuff on there as well, so it's not just that that's caught my eye. Particularly like the colours he's used on some of his sort of necromundry stuff. Real proper grimdark that's managed to maintain some really nice colours in it. I think that's I've just seen his great and clean one. It's Bishop Pape Nurgle. God, that could make you churn a little bit. Yeah, so some fantastic green stuff work on there. Absolutely splendid. So that's my second one. And then lastly, when it comes to miniatures, because there's a few other things I wanted to shout out, there's a chap called Rob Walters, whose Instagram page is called Icon, spelt with EYE, so EYECON 74. Obviously, we'll put all the links up these in our post releases. Now, this guy has been doing sort of marsh-covered, rotting Necrons, and they're really awesome. They're really cool. They look like they've just come out of the filthiest marsh ever. I love corroded Necrons, but I'm not a massive fan of rusty Necrons, because I think that their technology is just too advanced, really. I think that as soon as they came out, they clean them off. But I love weathered Necrons. So the idea that they've brought the the crap with them out of the swamp as they've come. But actually, when you look underneath, their armor is all pristine. I really like that. I think that's great. And we're actually talking about doing a combined Necron army so that we can join our forces together when we wanted to. I'm quite keen on this, Dan. Bit of hanging moss and stuff on them would look pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
This guy has also got some fantastic Titans, utilising some of the Sisters of Battle pulpit stuff on one of them. He's called the Warlord, the Huntress of the Vale. It's got a landing pad on its roof as well with a Arvus lighter, so it's really quite cool.
That's cool.
And all the Titans you've done are like wading through water, so it's done a really good job of making it look like the sea is literally like receding from their footsteps, like a tidal wave. So it's cool. Love them. Yeah, so that's my three, let's say, artists that have caught my attention over the last couple of months, particularly. Shall I pass over to you to do the hobby forum?
Yeah. So I get the pleasure of calling out you guys that are kind enough to get involved in the hobby forum, which we really appreciate. Apologies, we haven't been as active as we have in the past on there of late, but don't think that we don't see it. It's great to see it. It's really inspiring. And really, I want to kick off with some more awesome foam sculpting. So Thomas Ross, so that's Tiger Eye Creations, is sculpting a citadel. Have you seen this?
I have. It's massive, isn't it?
It's just flipping awesome. I absolutely love it, which is why I'm shouting it out, I suppose. It's just titanic. I just, yeah.
It is a
great,
table
mate.
in its own right. It's a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in one thing. It is vast.
It is glorious. What I'm hoping is he's actually doing that as part of a special Christmas episode of Grand Designs, and that's gonna be created by someone. I think that would be ace. But yeah, that Tom, that is fantastic, mate. So really good, and definitely, if you're listening, go check out on Facebook Tiger Eye Creations, because there's some good stuff on there. Then Pele, need to shout you out again, man. Really, really good. I can't. What's it called? It's got a mouse on its head, but the colours and the way the execution is just superb. Little Master Mice from Blacksmith Miniatures. It's just lovely. It really is nice. It's kind of like a weird kind of Mad Hatter type vibe going on, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's I just love it. I love it. I love
the colours are in this, and look at the plant life at the bottom on the base, like the little ferns and stuff. That's just really nice.
Yeah,
really good, mate. So thank you for sharing that. That's just superb. And I do apologise because I can't just shout everybody out because I'll just be going up there, and there is some wonderful, wonderful stuff, as always. But I do need to shout out Mr. Cheesewright. So James's Indomitus box set, wow, just wonderful. Really, really nice.
It is. I'm particularly impressed, and I must have asked James like a dozen times how he does his yellow. He does it different ways, but he did a squad of Lamenters for Golden Demon a while back when I entered my Iron Snake, and they were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And they weren't even more fantastic in person than they were in the photographs. But these guys are mostly grey with yellow shoulder pads and helmets, and he's just nailed the yellow. I think absolutely nailed it.
Yeah,
it's so clean, but a lovely tone. I just love them, absolutely love them. Really, really nice.
Yeah, so really like all of that, guys. Really, really good. Ben, did you want to talk about the competition?
Yeah, so actually we've been inspired this month. the last couple of months, like we said, have been a bit savage with us personal life wise. So the last competition was the 5-minute speed paint, and unfortunately, it wasn't as well received as previous ones. But we had some great entries. 3. So Russell Pierce did a what looks like one of the ring wraiths, and Adam Blight did a fantastic repainting of the Blood Angel Funko Pop into a Raven Guard, which was excellent. And I say Raven Guard, I think it is. Yes, it is. For 1 second, I got that completely wrong. And then finally, Mike Parker shared us a video of his, absolutely brilliant. Knocking out his Space Marine in 15 minutes. So I think watching your video, Mike, it looks like you learned loads from doing that, and that was kind of the point of it, really. It was a bit of fun. But we've been inspired this month by a personal set challenge by one of our hobby forumers who got, called Paul Gibbs, who got his kids to choose 3 colours and then added black and white. And the little darlings chose Calgar Blue, Gene Stealer Purple, and I can't see is it Screamer Pink? Screamer Pink. So like the worst possible palette for his Blightlord, one of the Wormspat. But dude, Paul has done a fantastic job with those colours. He's really, really given it some beans. But we thought that would be a fantastic idea for the next painting competition. So you get to choose 3 colours. If you get your kids to choose them, bonus points, or a random person on the street, or whoever is there that isn't you, then extra points. Otherwise, it's 3 colours, black and white, and paint any model you want using those. And we look forward to seeing those, and we'll put the post up over the next couple of days.
Awesome. So one of the things I shouted out James just now, and I was looking through his posts, and he says he uses a bone recipe on some robes that comes from Cult of Paint, which is a lovely segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which was Cult of Paint. So I'm not sure if we've done this when we last recorded, but we signed up to Cult of Paint's Patreon. So Cult of Paint is Andy Wardle and Henry Steele. And to be quite honest, the video production quality, and I haven't watched loads of videos, you'll have watched more than I have, but it's the best quality production for painting videos that I've seen, because it's so close into the model that you can see exactly what's going on with the brushwork, which I really, really like. Makes a big difference because you can really see where they're placing the paint, either with the airbrush or a normal brush, or a hairy brush, as Henry calls them. Now, I know we're fortunate enough Henry usually listens. So what I would say is, when do not watch them when you are even vaguely tired, and it's got nothing to do with the content. The content's wonderful, but Henry's voice, it's just like that dude that just reads you a calm story as you want to drift off to sleep. It's just wonderful. But you will fall asleep. And it's not because, as I say, it's nothing to do with the content. It's just great. But yeah, I love the videos. It's really nice as well because it recaps some stuff that I got quite a few years back now, at the MKA painting course, because Henry was one of the instructors on the course that I went to. So it's stuff on there. There's a great thing about pin washing. I really like the way it breaks down. They've got videos that just break down different techniques. So they've got one about pin washing, and it talks about the effect of different varnishes on a pin wash. And so he gets a base and he matte varnishes it and shows you how the paint interacts, and then he glosses it and it shows you how it interacts, and it shows you how contrast paint acts or oils act enamels act as pin washes. It's really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, really very worth checking out. I absolutely think it's worth the Patreon. I think I can't remember how much it is, to be honest, but I think it's definitely worth it. We'll put a link to it. But check those guys out. They've got some miniature, a range of 54mm scale, I think, miniatures.
Oh, they're lovely.
Yeah, really nice. Basically canvases for painting. They do their own airbrush. And actually what I like is they do use a lot of the airbrush, but they basically use what is needed to create something awesome and flip back and forth and use the best tools for the job that's going on. Came out, actually, Henry used in one of the videos I watched these little like metal dishes, and they are that has been brilliant. I bought a load of them. They are just fantastic for things like when you're doing a wash, but you're using a lot of it. So like when because I'm doing when I do batches and I'm putting wash on the bases and I want a lot of it, just put a bit out into one of these dishes, and it just means you're not dipping your brush into the pot and it all going up in the ferrule and making a mess.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah. You probably only need three or four of them. I obviously bought 24 because that's just how I roll.
Because you needed 24, Dan.
Yeah.
I probably needed 24 because I keep using them until I needed to wash them up.
Yeah.
I mean, the more of them I have available, the less washing up I need to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like tiles. If you wanted to sort of have a look at sort of the sort of video that they make, then they do free ones that are available on YouTube for you to have a look at, done in the same quality, the same format. So there is a place for you to go to sort of check them out before you put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing. But I'm really enjoying them, learning loads as well. Because at the moment I'm feeling the absence from other painters other than digitally. Because we haven't had a painting night around my house since March, maybe even a bit earlier than that. So I'm enjoying having the Cult Paint Patreon there to sort of get my fix. Last thing I want to talk about for community, with regards to personalities, is Gareth Nicholas, who was previously a sculptor for Games Workshop, is doing a 10mm sculpting of his own called Forest Dragon 3D, and he's currently releasing them on a Patreon basis, and I think they're digital files for a 3D printer. But you can check them out on Instagram as well to sort of have a look at what they look like, and they are really, really awesome. They're Warhammer basically fantasy battle. So Warmaster alternative figures, and they are fantastic. So
is it just the files?
I think it's just the files, at the moment. Yeah. Which is a good way for sculptors to release their stuff, really, when you think about it. I just imagine when you get more established, these things will be available, that you can get them printed, and a lot of sculptors will get them printed and or cast and then sell them as physical things too. But I'm seeing a lot more, even companies like Modiphius are releasing products as 3D files, 3D printed files. Which is really, for Modiphius, I mean, what they've done is release their big models, like the tank and the vertibird, as 3D files, because realistically, actually, one of the cool things about Fallout is that you come across scenes from the apocalypse. So if you wanted to do an area where like a wing of vertibirds crashed, vertibirds being a sort of helicopter kind of thing, buying 3 of them would be an absolute buggerance, really. Whereas if you bought the file and print 3, you can make your piece of scenery and it would look awesome. So yeah, it's got its own. It's definitely got its pros, but they're absolutely excellent. I'm a particular fan of the war dancers because they're really dynamic and absolutely fabulous. And of course, Gareth, being the astonishing painter that he is, has painted up a few, and they're on Instagram for people to have a look at on Forest Dragon 3D. So go and check them out.
Ace. So yeah, an interesting roundup from the community for this sort of month. Obviously, as ever, please go and check these people out because they do some awesome stuff. We haven't got an events roundup particularly because events are still sort of tentative and with the changes as well coming up.
Yeah, literally tomorrow after we record in, UK has gone down into a no more than 6-person lockdown again. So God knows how that's going to affect tournaments, probably, or even clubs. It's going to be a nightmare.
Okay, but I think having gone through the community, talked about some awesome looking stuff, it's time now to go into the wilds. Do you think, sir?
Into the wild? I think so. Yeah, absolutely. The sound has gone so weird. Welcome to the wilds of episode 57, and we are going to talk about, as we normally do, all the things that excite us or are excited us that isn't easily shoehorned into one of the other sections or we've remembered at the end having recorded everything else. So there's a few things that we'd like to cover off today. A bit of a mixed bag, but some really exciting stuff, to be honest. So this one I think I'd like to talk about is the new action figure by Green Wolf Action Figures, and is the Cadian officer. And so Green Wolf do a number of science fiction.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fantastic. They do a number of science fiction models from computer games, various whatnots. But they've also done really close work with some actual existing forces, such as the Royal Marine Commandos, and produced accurate equipment representation of those guys. So they've approached this from very much what would a Cadian Guardsman look like in true scale, with the equipment that Games Workshop have described. And they've done a fantastic job of capturing that quasi-futuristic but World War I textures that I just absolutely love. So, the guy's got a black eye, he's got his las pistol, but the fabrics look like, something you'd find in an army surplus store in the late 80s, when they're getting rid of all the old stuff. I think it's fantastic. It's a tough one with these action figures because they're not toys, and they're priced high, like between 70 and 150 quid often. So I was surprised at the cost of the Space Marine one, but then actually when you look around, it was very reasonably priced for what it was. So I'm expecting this one to be kicking around that kind of value. But I think it is one of the most awesome products that a company using Games Workshop IP has produced in a while. The realism on it is really what catches me. And there seems to be loads of options, so you can dress it up like your Action Man. It's really great.
While we're talking about that, there are 2 more Space Marines, aren't there?
Yes, there are, yeah. Yeah, there are.
A Salamander and a Fist, is it?
From
Bandai.
Yeah. So this area of the Warhammer hobby, as it were, seems to be taking off, really, doesn't it? So I'm really excited about Green Wolf and what they're going to produce in the future. Be really, really cool to see what they make of a Space Marine. That would be really cool with that kind of attention to realism. So that's them. And moving away from the Warhammer world, I was struck by this model by Chimera Models, which is spelled with a K, Kimera, called Lucaris, and it is like a Chaos Warrior. I don't know how else to describe it, but with like a skull mask, very much like the guy from Willow. And it is absolutely blinding. And as soon as I saw it, I thought that would be a great model to paint and have on the shelf. I've often thought about getting into sort of larger scale models and just painting them for shelf decoration, but then I remember that I've got like a backlog of 1 million models to paint without adding to it. But it's fantastic, really. And then I shared it immediately with you. What I think I like about it is the textures, the different textures on it. So you've got the furs right next to the armor, next to the lamella, loads of different belts. It'll really, I think it'll be really challenging to paint that and get the lighting right. But yeah, really like that. Of course, we'll share links to all these in the show notes, of course. Next one on our little run through is a company called Claymore Castings, Dan.
Yeah, their stuff's lovely.
Which produce very, very nice, sort of War of the Roses kind of, I would have thought, that kind of period. Maybe Henry V kind of era. Men at arms, crossbowmen, spearmen. I love them. I really do. They're obviously made to be historically accurate, as best as a miniatures company can do. But the moment I saw them, I was like, those guys, the humans with the big shields, would make like a fantastic human alternative to Eternal Guard, for example. You know, with that, if you don't move, you get 3+ save. That like just bulky plate with the shields. Oh, it's just so good. And there's some really dynamic men at arms there that I think would look fantastic in skirmish games like Mordheim and that kind of thing. So I really encourage people to go and have a look. They haven't got all the models painted up for people to see. However, if you type in hashtag Claymore Castings onto Instagram, there are plenty of people painting them up, and they are glorious. They're really, really well produced models. The detail really on the casting is exceptional. So I'm very tempted by them because they're £7 for 4, which isn't bad for a metal model either. Really. No. 28mm model. I'm really tempted by them for like a non-tournament Age of Sigmar army. Really, really tempted by them because they've got that almost Bretonnian aesthetic, haven't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think for blocks of, that's what I want. That's kind of exactly how I want my human infantry to look like in Age of Sigmar. And I think we just need to have some more, because I think it's well established on this podcast that I'm not a fan of the Empire State Troop models. Or we need, like, I think some different human troops, and something like that would really, really fits the bill for me. Do you want to talk about your icicles, Dan? Because they were quite cool. We missed out of the hobby section.
Yeah, that's because I haven't like pushed myself and got it done across all of them yet. But essentially, because I did snow as a theme for my Warcry, I was considering adding icicles. And I asked the question about where do people get icicles? And Ben the base, who puts a good amount of effort into his hobby, came back and was like, oh yeah, you can make them. You just heat up flying stand and stretch it to make icicles. And I was like, do you even know me? Is that going to happen? So I was straight on Google looking up model plastic icicles. Now, Green Stuff World do some resin ones, which I think some of them would be a bit bigger. Excuse me, and they're more rounded. But then I came across some on Model Scenery World or something like that, by Bush, who make like all the Christmas, like the Christmas villages and stuff that you see that you can get. You often see them in garden centres.
Yeah.
And they did a pack for $2.45 of these little icicles that were between sort of 3mm and 10mm long. And you get loads of it. It's just ridiculous. You got like, I think it must be an 8 or 10 centimeter strip, and you get 6 of those strips of all these icicles. I got loads of them. As again, another thing that I always tend to do is end up with loads of these things. Where have I put them? I don't know where I've even put them. I got that many bloody things. I don't know where I do. Keep them all now. But anyway, it's here somewhere. Yeah, really good. So I would definitely, if you're thinking about doing some kind of snow stuff, get those. I mean, I'm going to do some Imperial Bastions. I've got some of the old Imperial Bastions, and I wanted to do those up for my snowboard, because although I want to do like a brownie, rocky 40k board for like all my industrial stuff, I do want a snow table because my corner all on snow.
Yeah.
So I was going to do some. Yeah. I was going to do some of these bastions.
You say old Bastion? They haven't stopped selling that, have they?
I don't know, actually. No, I don't. I don't think they have, actually.
Good. Because that would have been another one that was lost without me noticing.
Yeah, I can't actually remember. So yeah, I really like those. Really like those.
Excellent. So the next thing on our little list was a little sneaky thing that came out a couple of days ago, which hints at a re-release of Heroquest, which is quite exciting, Dan.
Bum, bum, bum.
So we don't know any details about this, other than it's done by Hasbro. And they have done it alongside, let me just bring the link back up again. They've done it alongside Avalon Hill, which make board games. So between the two of them, they're releasing it. Now, the countdown as of today, which is Sunday, the 13th of September, is 8 days and 18 hours before we see the official whatever. Obviously, like, there's many ways in which they could do this. They could announce a Kickstarter. They could announce the finished product. They could announce the product in production. I'm a big fan of Heroquest. Loved it as a board game. One of the first games I picked up. Really buzzing about it.
Yeah, I mean,
my only.
Go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say my only reservation is that I don't know whether Avalon Hill or Hasbro have got much of a pedigree in 28mm scale models, but maybe they're going to go for we don't care so much about the models, we care more about the game kind of approach, which might be a bit of a shame, but we'll see. I'm going to wait and see what happens.
Yeah. Cool.
Interesting that Games Workshop doesn't even have its name on it, though.
Well, was it a Games Workshop thing, or was it just that Citadel made the miniatures?
No, it was absolutely Games Workshop, and MB released it together.
Okay.
So maybe Games Workshop ditched the rights to it, or lost the rights to it.
Yeah, maybe.
Hard to say. But I would have thought it would have popped up somewhere in the trademarking.
Yeah. Oh well.
But we'll see. We'll see. And then finally, last but not least, which has absolutely nothing to do with miniatures wargaming, I just had to just have a moment gushing about the new Dune trailer. Because Dune is such a massive part of the background that 40k comes from, without a doubt. There's so many things in Dune which I think or feel clearly influenced the early 40k thinking. And I loved the book. First thing I watched or did was watch the original film. Loved that. Then went and read the book. And that must be 20 years ago now. So I've just pulled it back off of my shelf to read a second time. Because the video...
That's a good idea.
It's just looks absolutely fantastic. I love the feel of the whole thing, the look of it, the armor, the ships, the way the everything. I just love it. I'm so excited about it that I will cry if the cinemas aren't open for its release. Like literally be devastated by that, because it looks like a film that absolutely needs to be seen in the cinema. So there we go. If you haven't and you're interested in films at all, go and see the trailer for Dune. It's on YouTube. Go and look, because it's going to be amazing. It's going to be the film of the year. It's my prediction.
Yeah, it looks amazing, mate. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I think maybe I'll read through it again. Yeah,
I mean, for me, the Imperial, I've forgotten the name of them, but the Imperial Guard that gets sent with to attack Arrakis, it must have influenced Games Workshop when they were thinking about the Space Marines.
Oh yeah,
and the suit of them, the shot of them coming down, like floating down from their drop, whatever. In the trailer is absolutely amazing. Yeah. I just googled them. They're called the Sardaukar.
Oh yes, yeah.
The elite military force of the Padishah Emperor. So awesome. So awesome. Anyway, they even use words like the Imperium.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, and the whole traveling
through the warp
with the navigators, and
even
down to like the houses on Arrakis, and just screaming Necromunda.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's brilliant. I love that. Actually, I mean, often people say there's no truly or original ideas, which is a bit. I don't think that's particularly true, but it is wonderful to go and watch some of the stuff that inspired 40k, and then look at where 40k has taken that, and how much more they've added on to that. It's things I just love it. And I love it when it's like linked. It's like Event Horizon. I love Event Horizon because
that was an accidental 40k film, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you know they're doing a series?
Are they?
Yeah, they are. I think it's on Amazon.
So that's great for that reason, and you watch Alien. It's just
Aliens is, in my opinion, one of the best films that's ever been made. I just absolutely adore it. I think I must have watched Aliens as many times as I've watched Die Hard, which is a considerable number of times.
Yeah.
We used to, me and my mate used to go and rent it practically weekly from the video shop back when video shops were a thing.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Stop it now. Feeling old now.
Did you ever get a chance to read Future Peace, Future War?
No.
The power armor in that is really, really cool, because it deals with more the sort of bizarre and horrendous environments that troopers would be in like intergalactic warfare. And of course, in 40k, we assume that every planet that everybody's on has a kind of breathable atmosphere,
Mm.
because it's an imperial world mostly. Of course, that's not always the truth. The truth. There's sometimes, there's plenty of battles you can read in all the codexes about, space marines fighting on the surface of a moon, or there's one where they fought most of the battle underwater,
Mm.
the ocean. I can remember them being deploying in the deepest areas in Land Raiders and Terminator armor, and then in the shallower areas with normal marines in plate. But there's a scene in one of these books in Future Peace, Future War early on, where they're fighting or training on a moon where it's so cold that hydrogen is liquid. And of course, if their power armor, what they're being taught to use above everything is how to use their power armor, because if it gets breached in any way, they are done for. And one of the recruits manages to breach their power armor because of the environment is so cold that it's literally like knives everywhere. So the rock is sharp and there's ice everywhere, and it cuts through one of their connective bits, and she freezes instantaneously because her power armor is breached. So for me, it was a really good book, imagining what it would be like operating in a suit of power armor as a human. I just think it's cool. I think you're absolutely right. Like reading these things, that where these ideas have come from, and then of course where Games Workshop was taking them, is really cool. And Dune is a perfect example of that. So we filled most of our end section with movie reviews and book reviews.
Yeah, well, that's all right. Okay, so that is going to wrap up episode 57. As always, we are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on YouTube at the 2P's podcast. We have a website, 2p'sinapod.com.
We even have an email address.
We have an email address, the 2P's podcast at Hotmail. Gmail. So yeah, there's lots of ways to get in contact with us. And we might even write back.
No, we will write back.
Of course we'll write. Of course, Ben will write back. I mean, we will write back.
That's if I get informed about it, because I now don't get any.
Oh no, I know it's rubbish.
Any notifications of anything on my phone at the moment. It's really driving me quite mad. But yeah. So,
hopefully we're gonna come back again in another month's time. I'm gonna try and get in the swing of it. Ultimately, we always said the podcast was about trying to do wargaming and balance it with a family, young family, and life, I suppose. So I guess it's no surprise that there are some breaks sometimes. Thank you all very much for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's been awesome. Nice to be back.
Bye.
Bye.